problem with the built environment is that we typically ask the question, what can we do upstream to eliminate waste? And I tell you it's the wrong question. It's the wrong question because there is no upstream. Even in the language we use to describe the environments we live in, there's an implicit linearity, as if one thing comes before another thing. I'm going to try and convince you, in fact, that the question to ask isn't so much, what can we do to eliminate waste in this case? The question to ask is, what can we do in this case to eliminate waste forever? Now, there are a couple of things that we don't talk about enough when we talk about the built environment. One is that the success of the built environment is actually profoundly dependent on proximate natural environments, the living environments. The other thing we don't talk about enough is that the success of built environments depends on people. Now, I'm going to get into what I mean by those two things soon, but I'm going to try and drop an idea into your mind that there's something called imaginative cycling that is the most important thing that we can do when talking about waste in the built environment. But let's start with material and energy cycling. It's kind of the oldest and, in a way, the foundational discussion of the waste and built environment issues. This is Benny Farm. Benny Farm is a really not very special place except for the community. The Benny Farm was approximately 60 hectares of post-war housing that by 1992 was slated for 100% demolition. Long story short, we saved almost 40% of the buildings, housing 100% of the foreseen people that were to go into the new development. And that means, by doing that for 80 or 85% of the cost, you get to do lots of cool stuff. Society can invest when it reuses. What does that mean? Well, on the Benny Farm, as you see in the top left, we did material recycling. We also established closed-loop energy systems. We established closed-loop water systems. And we tried to dip into the living systems as well. Here's some examples. The buildings, the bricks, the wood, the radiators. It was all done. And what I think the key message is to give everyone who isn't familiar with the built-in environment is that reuse is dead easy. If we are not doing it, we are stupid. I mean the word stupid. I don't mean, oh, we're missing an opportunity. It's just ridiculous to not use real buildings. Because I got something for you. 100% of the existing buildings today exist today. They are really significant sources of embodied energy. They exist, and we shouldn't be demolishing them and throwing them out. It's difficult to repurpose them sometimes when you're changing use, but that's for another talk, because that gets into a discussion about typology and how we should design things in the first place. So there are things you can do with the added resources you have by reuse strategies. One of them is creating common spaces. This is a common dining hall on the Benny Farm. Another thing you can do is create common outdoor spaces. This all addresses the question of what I'm going to call social cycling. But I want to, before I go there, touch on something called biological cycling, and we don't go there nearly enough in our discussions. I'm going to talk about a project really, really quickly called the Petite Rivière. The Petite Rivière project was a golf course, still is a golf course actually, and it's what it looks like in the top left. Now there are lots of places in our cities that look like this. They're ostensibly green spaces, but frankly, anybody who knows anything about natural systems knows that that image is a dead image. There is so little life, there is so little biodiversity there that is effectively asleep. What the local ecosystem in Montreal wants to look like is the hickory sugar maple forest on the right-hand side there. And what we need to remember is that real living systems permit human health. They permit it. So maybe our cities need to look a little bit more like the image in the bottom left. And the image in the bottom right is so important because it's actually a research study that we were putting together with the University of Montreal on the Benny Farm project to remember to measure ecosystem services. Not only the ecosystem services that these little urban forests can provide to us, like fresh air, fresh water, greenhouse gas cycling, nutrient cycling. But the ecosystem services that we can provide to them, we provide them habitat and we provide them connectivity. And if we do that, then what we do is we give human health back to urban populations. This isn't just theory. It's now measured. A study in the United Kingdom, 40 million people studied over some number of years, and they discovered that mortality in areas where you had living systems proximate to urban systems, to urban places, the mortality of people in the greener areas was 6% less, 6% lower than the mortality of people in the hard urban areas with little access. Not only that, that difference was half made up by the difference between the rich and the poor. So the amazing thing is that these natural systems are part of what keeps us healthy in cities. And it's not just because it gives us fresh air, it's something it does to our imagination. And I'm going to go there next. Biological cycling, therefore, is the exchange of habitat and ecosystem services for human health. Social cycling. Social cycling, what is it? Now, there's a kind of myth about what happens on projects. A great project starts with grassroots, and then after lots of labor and toil, we come to an enlightened design process that creates great ideas that gives a great project. But the thing that we always forget is that grassroots activism, social capacity, that is the end game for these projects. That's what you need to be creating while you create these projects. So imaginative cycling, what is it? I want you to imagine a place where there's always evidence of the built environment being recycled. There is always evidence of living systems really intimately integrated into these environments, and where there is an engaged and active population. If we think about that, you start realizing that the complexity that involves actually feels like opportunity. It feels like opportunity the same way a walk through the forest makes you feel like opportunity, right? It's too complex for you. There's too much going on. So what is it that you can do with your next project? With your next project, instead of thinking about how can I prevent waste, you must also do that. You must also, however, think about how can I get the natural world, these living systems, to participate in the social systems and to participate in the built environment all at the same time. What we need more than anything are examples where everything is working all at the same time. Because when we create those, we create what I like to call an aspirational economy, where these cycles are present everywhere, always, and influence what our kids think about them. So from that point of view, waste is never waste. Waste just becomes an opportunity for art, for art's sake.